Annette Marcus, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being part of our outreach to the UJC community. We really, really appreciate it. And until the COVID-19 crisis kicked in, tell us what you were doing.
Well, I was teaching a full slate of ceramics 1 and 2 classes at New Milford High School, beginning students and advanced students.
That is really great. So, what kind of changes have you had to make to accommodate shelter in place, staying at home, distance learning? What have you had to do?
Well, as you can imagine, this was not on any of our radars at all. And my courses are about 25% academic, where I have students reflect on what they've done through written and sketched documents. But 75% of it is hands-on learning. It's the best way to learn how to use a material, especially clay. So when they sent us home and said, we're going to figure this out, it was a lot of wondering how I was going to turn a practical course into a survey course. I think that a lot of the teachers, I think all of the teachers, no matter what course they were teaching, had to make huge adjustments. But I think those of us that are in the practical and fine arts and things like music, wood shop, PE, had to really, really change over their methods of teaching to still adhere to the curriculum goals that we were assigned.
So what did you do?
Well, I had to learn how to use Google Classroom, and I had to learn how to use Google Meet. And so I had to learn how to write lessons where I could, rather than physically show students what to do, stand up in the middle of the classroom and say, this is what we're going to do, and this is where this came from, and then demonstrate a technique and send them off to do it. I had to seek out video of the specific thing that I would have done during that period in my curriculum if I was standing in the classroom. And then I had to write lessons around the videos that I could find that were teaching the students. So learning classroom was a big deal because I'm really not a computer person. I'm not much of a tech person at all. I'm really kind of kilns are about the most tech I like to use. So learning how to use Google Classroom was the biggest learning curve for me.
And do the students have materials at home?
Oh, no.
So,
No, this is why this is so challenging, because I'm teaching them how to use clay techniques without them having to be able to manipulate any kind of material at all. And the other art teachers, the same. There's a digital photography course, which she can assign students to go out and take, photographs of specific things and then upload them into the computer and submit them and crop them and all of that. And for students that have drawing materials or even painting materials at home, the 2D teachers can muddle through that but all I can basically have students do is either draw or write what their observations were about what they observed in the videos.
So all of
so they're not making any clay pieces.
So the goals of the class had to change.
Yeah. Yes.
And the outcomes had to change.
Yes.
Oh. Are you noticing any change in the students? Is their participation changing at all? Or, well, obviously their participation is because they're not hands-on, but their interest, their willingness to do, has that changed at all?
I think the students that came in with a willingness to learn are still learning. So they are still entering the Google Classroom and looking at the assignments, reading the assignment as I set aside, viewing the videos at least once, sometimes several times, to extract the nuance from what I'm trying to get them to do. The students that had absence issues or were not turning in work or had other kinds of behavioral or attendance issues in class are minimally participating or not at all.
Does it have anything to do with socioeconomic kinds of things? Are you being affected by that?
I would have to imagine that it does. There are students that I'm aware of, for example, that have both parents are in the healthcare field. So a couple of the students are actually living with grandparents right now because the parents do not want the student to be exposed to COVID when they come home from work. So those students are living with grandparents. Many of the students' parents are probably out of work. And even before this occurred, there is always a direct relationship between what's happening in the home, coming to school. Some students look at school as a haven away from the kinds of unhappinesses or struggles that occur in the home. And so they look at the art department like, this is my haven, this is my safe place. And we make it so. And there are other students who are have so much negative going on in their homes that even under the best of circumstances, they have probably more important things to worry about than whether they can successfully make a pinch pot or do a watercolor painting.
That's true.
And I mean, their situation is survival. So when they manage to come, we help as much as we can. We're limited, but there's a lot of support staff in the high school when we're in the high school that can help students through these things. But now that they're all home,
Wow.
I can reach out when students don't turn in an assignment, and I could email them and say, hey, how you doing? I'm thinking about you. I haven't heard from you in the last couple of weeks. Do you need any help? Is there anything I can do? So we can do that more now, I suppose, than we could before. But no, I have students that haven't participated at all so far, and guidance are working with them to try to help them. So who knows what's happening at home?
Wow. So, are there things that you have had to change in the way you're teaching, obviously? Are there changes that you've made that you would like to take with you once we are back to whatever normal is going to look like?
I think so. I think I'm getting better at articulating my conveying the information that I want students to take away from it. Before I'm sure that I was passable at it. I mean, I'm still employed, so I guess I'm pretty good at it. But I was using a lot of my handiwork to help explain. There are visual learners, and there are auditory learners, and there are tactical learners. And so I was putting a little bit of all of that into each of the lessons and each of the class programs that I conducted every day. Now, because of being largely largely written and through video, I've had to choose my words more carefully and try to ask for, very specifically ask for what I want. I would say I would take that with me, and I would also probably continue to use Classroom. I know a lot of teachers do it to keep on top of assignments throughout a week and so forth. And I probably would set up Classroom again whenever we get back into school, so that I can have that one-on-one contact, not even just with students, but with their parents. I don't know, have you used Classroom?
I have not used Classroom. I have, excuse me, I've investigated.
Mhm.
I've been a little daunted by it. Um, but no, I haven't really been able to figure out how to make that work. So,
There's one young lady who is a school teacher, a sixth grade school teacher, who puts out tutorials on how to use Classroom, on how to use Meeting, on how to use Docs and so forth. She's really, really good at it. I would say my only criticism of her is she's so enthusiastic that she explains it so quickly that you have to go back and look at it again. So you're like, hold on, give me a chance to catch up with you. But that's been very, very helpful. And then just practicing and plugging away with it until we went live with it. Like we were out of school for a week, and then we had a couple of days where we were working with people to set it up, and then we went live with it. So
yeah, what everybody's had to do.
everybody's had to do it.
So, what things have you gotten used to in this shelter in place time that you would really rather not take with you?
Well, I'm sitting more than I ever did before. I don't mind not getting up at 5:30 in the morning so that I can be in my classroom at 7 and get, kilns emptied and, materials prepped to be ready for students to come in. And as soon as the bell rings, hit the ground running. But I'm sitting more and doing computer work more when I would much rather be moving around a classroom and looking over somebody's shoulder and telling them, I like what you're doing with that. That's actually more of an advanced technique, and you just figured that out on your own, and bravo. Or help somebody that's struggling, or watching students help one another in the classroom, because we sit communally. We have 5 big tables instead of individual desks. And so classes are really communities, and I miss that a lot. I don't, if I didn't have to sit in front of a computer again, to teach, I think that would make me very happy. But I guess I would enjoy sleeping until about 7 in the morning and starting to teach at 8:15.
Annette, if you could tell your students one wish for them, now that we know that the school year is done and they're not going back to school,
Yeah.
if there was one wish that you could tell your students right now, what would that be?
I wish that each of them had 15 pounds of clay at home, so that those of them who wanted to try these things that I'm showing and demonstrating and offering videos, really, really skilled people doing wonderful, inspiring work. I wish they'd have the opportunity to try it away from me, and then give me the feedback. Well, I tried this and it didn't work, or I tried this and it came out better than I thought it would. So I would say to them that I miss them, but I'm glad that we are all safe, and healthy, and hope that everyone in their world is. And that I just wish they had the opportunity, because most of them were really, really stoked about working in clay, especially the beginners who had never done it before. And then, I mean, they've got pots in the studio. They're fired, that are waiting to be glazed. I've got a pile of them in the studio, and I just wish they could, come back and pick up where we left off.
Well, God willing, we will be back there in September.
God willing.
All of those pots will still be there in September. And
Yeah,
thank you so very, very much for doing this.
you're very welcome.